Well, howdy folks, it's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician here on this windy day, making another video for you out of Boise, Idaho. And we are diagnosing a 2001 Ford Escort ZX2. It's got the Ford 2.0 liter variable VCT, variable cam timing engine. So what does that mean? It means it's a complicated engine. That's all that really means. So I'm going to give you some story behind this. I'm not going to mention the name of the shop in town because that's just not how I roll. But I am going to say this. This vehicle came to me from another shop that, from what I understand, wanted to charge like $3,000 or $4,000 to put another engine in it. And obviously, I don't even think that would be a brand new engine. I think that would be a used engine, something like that. When it doesn't necessarily need a new engine. And the interesting thing is, this is actually, I'm going to say over the course of a couple of years, the fourth or fifth car that has come out of this one shop from people claiming that this shop wants to charge them a god-awful price to do a major repair that in the end, after taking some time and, you know, due diligence and all that other stuff, is an unnecessary repair. And even then, I think $3,000 or $4,000 for an engine for this vehicle, to swap an engine out in this vehicle, that's a little excessive. So, you know, this is why I enjoy working out of my own home for myself. I got so fed up with commercial shops. Nowadays, I sleep well at night. So anyways, so let's move forward and see what's going on with this car. The history that it came with was that it was being driven and then it blew white smoke all over the place. The person that was driving it really didn't notice if it was overheating or not or anything like that. After that, the engine quit running, and there's obviously no compression in the engine. So one of the first things that I started off with was just a visual inspection. And as you can see, I've pulled all the bottom covers here and looked down in here. I mainly did that so as I was inspecting it, working with it, I could gain access to the crankshaft, turn the crankshaft over by hand, all that other stuff. But most of it's dried up now. But as I was pulling these covers off, I noticed that I had coolant coming out. There had been coolant that had pooled up in here and had gotten that all wet. And then obviously on this cover that I pulled, all of this that's coolant right there. So the next thing that I did was I visually inspected the water pump. Now the water pump, you can see, is right here, and you can see, look at that coloration right there. That's where the water pump blew. That's where the coolant went all over the place. That's why there was white smoke everywhere. Now I suspect that before it completely blew, before white smoke went everywhere, I suspect that the car was already beginning to overheat. I know that it hasn't been reported that anybody noticed it was running hot or overheating, but just from the damage that I see and that amount of coolant being blown out of the water pump right there, enough to cake up and dry up and leave that discoloration, I suspect it had been leaking the whole time. So what happened? Well, there's no compression in the engine whatsoever. All right, after doing a compression test and a cylinder leak down test, I determined that it's not the valves, though. It's not the timing as to why there is no compression in the engine. Upon pulling the spark plugs, I noticed that the spark plugs are just completely oil soaked. Look at all that oil. That's just from them sitting here as I let them just sit here. That is a lot of oil to be on a spark plug. If you ever see that much oil inside of your cylinder, you're not going to get that from piston rings. Even if the piston rings are bad, there's no way you're going to pump that much oil into a cylinder. But you will get that much oil, that much contamination into a cylinder if your cylinder head has gotten hot and it's warped. What's happening is the oil, you've got a blown cylinder head between cylinders where the oil is supplied to the camshafts, and you have that oil now leaking into the cylinders. Okay, so again, if you have a water pump that's blown, no coolant, white smoke all over the place, and all of a sudden your engine won't run, you have no compression whatsoever, then more than likely you've got a warped cylinder head and you've got contamination of oil into the cylinders through the ports that oil is fed to the camshafts. All right, does that mean that you need a new engine? No. And that's why I camera probed the cylinders, was to look at the cylinder walls. I'm gonna see if I can get this for you with just one hand here. Was to look down inside and to look at the cylinder walls and see if they look blue or anything like that. If they do look blue, then yeah, you want a new bottom half of the engine, but that's just an unlikely thing. So I'm going to set my camera up and see if we can see some of this. Alright, so here we are, and what we're looking at here is cylinder number 1. Okay, and as you can see, the top of this cylinder is pretty clean. There's not a bunch of oil in there. And as I turn my camera in there, hold on just a second. Okay, we can see the cylinder wall. I'm doing this one-handed and I apologize. But bottom line is through this camera probe, I can see the cylinder wall. I can see the piston is clean. There's not a bunch of oil. The cylinder wall doesn't have a blue tint to it. So that's good. Now let's see if we can get into cylinder number 3 and 4 where we have loss of compression. Alright, now then, let's look into cylinder number 4, and you can see, once we get a good focus on the camera here, you can see some of the oil that's in those divots on the piston. Okay, this is where the oil is coming from. It's coming from the head gasket that's blown, and you're getting cross-contamination. What it is the head gasket is blown, and where the oil travels up to the camshafts, what it's doing is it's dumping into the cylinder. But the main concern is the engine still good? Yes, the engine is still good, because as we're camera probing this and we're looking at it, we're looking at cylinder walls. All right, and what we're looking for is any type of blue discoloration or anything like that, which I absolutely do not see. So again, in the end, we don't need a new engine altogether. Bottom half of this engine is just fine. What we need is to get better focus here. Come on, camera, there we go. What we need is to go ahead and just replace the top half of this engine. And honestly, I think it's best just to go ahead and get another cylinder head that's already been redone, has never been warped, has been machined plain, comes with all new seals, tappets, the bucket lifters, all that other good stuff. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to say that this needs a new engine, because it doesn't need a new engine. It needs a new cylinder head, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and get a new top half of this engine and go at it. Also, even though the timing belt is fairly new at, let's see, what does that say? 68,000 miles. It's got 81,000 miles. I'm going to keep you can tell the tensioner is new. You can tell that the idler pulley is new. I'm going to keep that, but I am just going to go ahead and put a new timing belt on it while I'm in there. So there you go, folks. Another vehicle that I've been able to save. It doesn't have to cost the owner thousands upon thousands of dollars. Everything is good to go. So in the future, be looking for a video on how to replace the cylinder head on this 2.0 Z-Tech engine. All right, folks, well, this is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician. Thanks for coming out and watching my videos and supporting me. If you have any questions, just shoot them to me in the comments. I'm real well known for trading emails, also for trading phone numbers, helping walk you guys through any procedures that you may need to do, diagnostics and repair procedures, in hopes of saving you guys money. All right, everybody, well, I am signing off.